Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for being with me on this journey. I know that you learned a lot already this morning. Our second guest today is Richard Fisan. Richard works with professionals and business leaders who want to increase their personal effectiveness with joy and grace. His neuroscience-based mind muscles model gives his clients the opportunity to reach their goals with online training, simulations, interactive exercises, group support, and real-time decision processes. Richard has been a floor trader on the CME, CBOT, and the options floor of the Pacific Exchange, where he built and sold a successful options trading firm where he served on the exchange's board of directors. He also founded and built a financial software company and is the inventor of 10 significant trading interface patents. This, combined with his master's degrees in clinical psychology, NLP's master's certification, and neuroscience focus, brings a unique framework to business, investing, and career success. Richard is the author of A Private Conversation with Money. His book observes the main character, Joe, who struggles with all the conflicts, self-sabotage, and belief systems around money and wealth that no longer serve him. He learns how to create a mindset that around money not only feels better and honors his deepest values, but also gets to reach his goals. And today he will walk us through a private conversation with money, how to create rapport with money, meaning, wealth, and success. Thank you so much, Richard, for being with me today. Your bio is impressive. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's great to be here. I think that the world is coming. We've internalized a lot of conflicts around the world. And so I ask, why is the world so conflicted around money, meaning, and wealth? How do we absorb and maintain conflicts from our family, our education, our peer groups, our political affiliations? Why do we have economic classes? Why do people remain in an economic class that they were assigned? How do we feel secure with potential extreme financial events? What does it take to gain rapport with some of our just deepest values in money? Now, I'm going to open the discussion on these really hard problems in the next 20 minutes. My mission in life is to invite everyone into rapport with money, meaning, and success. My book, A Private Conversation with Money, is part of this mission. My free online course is another part, along with my live weekly workshops. Now, I'm going to tell you how to get a coupon for a free course at the end after the Q&A. But first, what I want to tell you is my personal story. It was April of 1995, a long time ago. I was asleep in bed and I heard this voice. It woke me up and it said, "Rich, you're only worth $200,000 a year." I looked around the room. My wife was sleeping peacefully beside me. And I realized that voice came from a belief I held deeply inside of me. So I got up, I dressed, showered, I drove across the Golden Gate Bridge to San Francisco to the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange, where I was an option market maker. I got there so early, the doors were still locked. I sat on the concrete and I thought about that voice inside of me. When the doors opened, I went to the pit that was empty. I looked around, and normally I just stood at the back of the pit, taking small bites out of orders. But I realized I was done with that voice forever. And I went to the front of the pit, right between where the two best brokers were going to stand, so I could hear all the orders. Now, pits, they don't exist anymore. It's all electronic. But at that time, you don't own a spot. You have to fight for it. And when the other market makers eventually came in, the guy who always stood there, the meanest, the toughest, the most well-capitalized, he nudged me, expected me to move, and I didn't move. I ended up owning that spot. And it took 2 months of fighting to stay there. And when the bell went off that morning, I just went crazy. I was buy them, sell them, buy 5, sell you 10, buy 100, sell 20. And I was done with that internal voice, that internal restriction that just held me back. I went on to make enough money that I could open my own trading firm and train my own traders. And I thought this was going to be great. I had a system, I had a process, but something happened. The traders that I trained for a profitable system, some of them took off and made money, and some of them made a little, lost a little, made a little, lost a little, made a little, lost a little. And so I brought in a hypnotherapist, and what we discovered is, much like myself, we had hidden beliefs. We had beliefs about ourselves, our identity, the world we lived in. One of them, for example, came from an extreme line of poverty, and with a lot of relatives and family, that if he made money, the belief system was that he would be disconnected from his family. Another one had a father an immigrant, who worked 3 jobs to put him through school and really suffered to make money. And if he made money easily, it was like it would be disrespectful to his father. So he made as much as his dad did and then gave it away. And there are more examples of that, how our deepest beliefs about ourselves and our beliefs about the world and our worthiness limit the amount of money that we make. So I decided to write a self-help book called A Private Conversation with Money. And I had to ask myself, what about self-help books is the most effective? And what I realized it was engagement. We can all read words of self-help books, but those internal demons, those things that we discover under hypnosis, those deepest thoughts about our values and our beliefs about ourselves, that we can just skip over that. So my book contains a number of exercises to get people engaged in their own state of mind. So these exercises come with a book, and I'll tell you how to get them with a coupon for free later. So what do we discover with these exercises? What's interesting is some of us have rebelled against our parents, but those parental beliefs that are so deep and just repeated over as we grow up, like money doesn't grow on trees. Wealthy people stole the money off the backs of the poor. Other people will always screw you over. Money is the root of evil. We have peer pressure from communities that are important to us. We have cultural beliefs between libertarians, conservatives, progressives, and that all have very different beliefs about our relationship to money, capital, success, and wealth. And all these add to these internal conflicts and feelings of unworthiness, even that maybe we just don't deserve better. So as a result, we self-sabotage to keep us safe in our current situation. Primitive survival mechanisms that we have keep us repeating the same struggles because we're used to them. We have guilt if we have more than others. We have a lack of boundaries and self-care. If I turn, so one of my clients says, but if I'm rich, I might become evil. Money oftentimes comes with so much responsibility that people just choose not to handle that. So the question is, how do we invite readers, students, and clients to new behaviors that serve them better? What we have first is our golden keys, and that is, and the first golden key is awareness. How do we create new behaviors if we're not aware of all the subconscious, all these beliefs, all the worthiness below us? So there's a story of Suzanne who worked hard, but blew several opportunities. So we agreed to start with a physical experience that leads to an awareness of chronic tight stomach, shallow breathing. As we went deeper into the voice of these kind of physiological experiments, a voice arose out of her that said, "You don't deserve success. You're not worthy." It was that voice that sabotaged any success that she didn't feel on the deepest levels that she deserved. The second key we have, the golden key, is acceptance. So if we can be aware of what is going on, and rather than judging ourselves, if we can just say, accept that. Paul, for example, had a continual negative and self-judgmental thoughts. He then criticized him for having negative thoughts, which then created just a downward spiral into depression. But what if we look at what we discover with curiosity? Paul learned to be aware of his negative thoughts, allow them just to come and go through his brain, and look at them with fascination and curiosity. He was aware of the...
Richard. I think the connection interrupted, unfortunately. You are back. You are back.
I'm back?
Yes, you are back.
Okay. So the first golden key is awareness. The second is acceptance of what we discover. And the third key, once we have awareness, is agency. And agency is our ability to create our experience. Like if one of the spouses says, he made me feel that way. Well, that means we don't have agency, that the event comes packaged with how we feel. But with awareness and acceptance, we can now start to say something like, oh, he said something, he said X, Y, Z. How do I want to experience that? And once we experience agency, then from that point of view, we can ask what we want. In my own story about my limitations, my awareness was accidental. But how do we create intentionality? How do we intentionally create that voice that I had in the middle of the night and create changes that support our better identity and beliefs and behaviors? So any thoughts so far about that, or any questions or comments?
I am looking forward to hearing the answer of how do we increase that awareness? How can we build all of that?
Well, that's the perfect question, because one of the first exercises in our book, Private Conversation with Money, is what I call the 3-chair exercise. And this exercise is designed to keep and increase our awareness of our relationship with money. So what I do is I ask my clients, if it's on Zoom, we can do it, or when they come to the office, to bring something that represents the most powerful experience of money. Some bring a pile of cash, $100 bills or $10 bills. Some of them bring gold or a brokerage statement. So I take 3 chairs, put them all facing each other in kind of a triangle. We put the money in one chair and I have them sit in the other, and ask them and invite them to have a conversation with money. So they're there looking at that money in the chair, and they'll say something like, why do you stay so far from me? Why do you come in big rushes and then just leave me? Some people will be really angry at money, and they will express a voice that they didn't even know was there. Some people have a love fest with money. So I ask them to move the chair closer or farther away, depending on how they feel about money. Once they've expressed themselves, they then go sit in the chair with that money or the gold or the brokerage statement. And I say, money, how do you feel about what he or she just said? And money sometimes says, you know, I'm not very attracted to that person. Now, you and I know that this is projection, and we're projecting just part of ourselves. But in that moment, in this play acting world, that person actually feels like a part of themselves and that voice. And they will say all sorts of things about how they feel about being attracted to them. And sometimes money wants to move way far away. Other times wants to move closer. So once we've increased that awareness of those two parts, we ask the person sit in the third chair and be the wisest self. And we ask them to observe that conversation that just happened. And as wisdom, as your highest self, what do you notice? And they'll say, come up with a most incredible awareness and thoughts about as they observe money and they're old self, going back and forth and fighting. And sometimes they have great advice. And then we have them sit back in their original chair and now talk to money from a deeper place, a place of values that is their deepest values, a place of their identity, their beliefs, and their behaviors in a way that we're creating new rapport with money. So the question is, then how do you get the awareness? How do you get the acceptance? How do you get then agency so that you can decide what experience you want to have about money? So that's a lot right there. We've got about 5 more minutes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. This is very helpful. I will let you go on, and then I have some questions
Okay.
that I can end with.
In the book, A Private Conversation with Money, Joe Every, the book protagonist, struggles with every conflict that I have discovered from my clients. Every conflict. So he has arguments, he has fights with money, he has all these struggles that all of my clients have had. And as a result, you can join him. So it's not like there's this book that says you should do this. In fact, the book is the opposite. It fights money all the way so that you can, along with Joe and the additional exercises in the book, really engage in the deepest struggles so that you can come up with your values, your mission, your money, your meaning, and for the first time, maybe for some people to develop real rapport with their life. So we can go on. I can give you more examples of clients. We can talk about some of the other exercises. What is your curiosity? Where is it right now? What would you like to hear more about?
Thank you, Richard. This is absolutely amazing. I will also buy the book because I am really interested in learning more and walking with Joe on this path and see what is his struggle and what are my struggles in this respect. What I would like to ask is, I know that you also mentioned at the beginning that you had a client who was in this situation. I know that sometimes we are making money, but then it is very difficult to maintain it, to keep it. And my question would be, how do we do that? How do we keep it on the long term?
Well, you may know, Diana, that in the United States, in fact, in Britain, lottery winners within a couple of 3 years often go back to the original net worth. In the United States, football players who've made millions and millions of dollars over their career don't have enough money to retire. The most typical, what we call the equity curve, how much money you're making of the traders, is that it will go up, it'll go up, it'll go up, and then something will happen. And that something isn't the market, that something isn't something out there, but they'll crash and go back down and have to do it again and again and again. And that's a really good question because we have a survival mechanism. And you're not going to believe this, but our survival mechanism says, I know how to survive the struggle I grew up with. I don't know how to survive wealth. Now, this sounds crazy. Not one client I've ever had has come to me and said, Rich, I don't know if I deserve wealth. I don't know if I can handle it well. I'm afraid I'm going to give it back. They all say, oh, if I get wealth, I'll be there. But it turns out that those survival mechanisms get triggered. And then we go back to our comfort zone. So the question then is, how do we step into a state where both we are observing our values, our mission, our money, and our meaning? And our brains won't let us step into a new state if it's not safe. So I have the people imagine what it's like, the cars they drive, where they live, how that changes the relationship with their families, their communities. I have asked the ethical voices inside, what objections do you have? I check their ecology, their community. what is going to create stress or conflict once they achieve this. And if we go through this imaginary exercise, oh my gosh, the stuff we come up with. My stuff like, my grandma hated wealthy people. And even though she's passed now, if I'm wealthy, I can just hear her voice and the pain, because she came from Hungary and she came through the Second World War and she blamed it on wealthy people. And if I'm wealthy, am I going to lose that imaginary affection from my grandmother? So we go through the imaginary process of being there and then seeing what comes up.
This is very helpful. Thank you so much, Richard. I don't know if you have any other examples for us on how you work with your clients so that the audience knows what to expect if they want to approach you.
Right. Well, we have several ways. I take private clients. You can read the book and do the exercises. But you know what I've discovered is that we are really community beings. We grew up in clans and tribes. And to be separated from a tribe, you know, in our early ancestors meant death. So I have worked with people, we do all the work together. They start making money and then they go back to their tribe and they realize, if I get a break from my tribe, I'm alone. So what we do is I have wealth workshops that we do online on Zoom, and we just work in a group. So we have a tribe that supports you, that we celebrate every victory. We have an application called Money Metrics. And what we do is everyone measures every day what their beliefs are, what their attitudes, what their behaviors are, what their sensations, emotions, and thoughts are. And it's a colored graph. So when we meet, we bring up this colored graph and everyone can see how we're doing. And if somebody's having struggles, we can support them. If they're doing well, we can celebrate them. And being able to step into a money positive community I found is really powerful. And especially in our culture. I don't know, where are you from, Diana?
I am originally from Romania, but I live in Germany.
Oh, okay. I have one of my clients is from Romania right now. And he's in our workshop. So we have people from all over the world. Now in America, we have probably more guilt than the rest of the world combined.
I believe it is in Europe as well.
So one of the things we work with here is guilt. In other areas of the world, there are other issues coming up. But what I do is I reframe money to what I call certificates of appreciation. So, for example, if you do a service for me and I'm pleased with it, I give you a certificate of appreciation to say, thank you, Diana. I appreciate what you're doing for me. And vice versa. If I do something for you, you give me a certificate of appreciation. Now, this is going to upset a lot of the audience. If you create voluntary relationships, you collect certificates of appreciation, you do more for the world than somebody who is not collecting those. Now, we have other ways to make contributions. Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, people who have devoted their lives to improving the world. But one way to improve the world is to collect certificates of appreciation. So it's a radical view. And we have other radical views that we reframe our relationships so they honor our deepest values. They honor the dignity and integrity of everyone around us. We look at voluntary relationships, and then we get rapport with money, meaning, success, and our values.
I love that. Thank you, Richard. And one other question that I have is, do you think that in order to make more money and become more successful, is it a matter of changing our own limiting beliefs, Or is it rather that maybe we don't have the right knowledge on how to acquire that money?
That is an excellent question. So what I have, one of the exercises in the book is to create a vision board. I don't know if you're familiar with those. In America, they were all the rage. You put the fancy car and the big house and the fancy spouse and all that stuff, and you imagine it and you manifest it. But my board is called a value board. And what we do is we put, what value do I want to deliver to people? Now, then we work backwards. What knowledge do I need? What skills do I need? What abilities do I need to create relationships to deliver this value? So we're focusing on delivering value. And as we deliver value, then we get more and more certificates of appreciation.
Thank you so much. Are these certificates also kind of representative of money, or are they just words? Because the moment you mentioned this, I kind of imagined myself receiving these certificates and receiving at the same time a kind of imaginary money. And this would unblock some of my own limiting beliefs. Is this the case, or is it that they are words which express the gratitude?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understood all of that, but the goal there is money is the root of evil, money is bad, rich people have money. So we have all these thoughts and we trigger them. So if I change it to a certificate of appreciation, in fact, one of the exercises is when you go to the grocery store, you say, here are certificates of appreciation. You say that out loud. When you do something for somebody and they pay you, you say, thank you for these certificates of appreciation. So we're reframing money in a way that is connected to the value we're receiving and the value we're delivering to other people. And for some of my clients, this just relieves them of all the guilt and anguish and internal conflicts once they reframe money as a certificate of appreciation.
I see. So it's not like a paper that you are handing to someone.
Yeah, it's actually money. In fact, if I wish I had some $100 bill here, I'd say this is a certificate of appreciation. Next time I'll bring a $100 bill and wave it.
Thank you so much, Richard. And I would like to ask you the last question for today is, who are you serving and how can people contact you if they want to join your program?
Sure. You can go to conversations.money/ what was it? I forget. Let me get it. Maybe let me get it right. Design. That's right. Conversations.money/design. And there's a coupon there. So you can get the free online course. I can always be reached at rich@mindmuscles.com or rich@mindmuscles.com if anybody wants to contact me. And I'd love to explain how to join our wealth workshops that we have for people all over the world. How to get the book is on Amazon and other sellers, A Private Conversation with Money. So if there's any way we can connect, free exercises, the book, you can buy it electronically for under $3 US. So there's a lot of ways that you can step into a new framework with money without a lot of cost.
Thank you so much, Richard. I am appreciative for your wisdom and sharing your knowledge with us on this platform, because I believe that everyone needs to learn it and apply it. Thank you so much for being today with me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Diana.